Hi everyone, and welcome to the last transmission with myself and Paul. How you doing, mate?
I'm okay, thank you. Been busy day today, but just good to sit down here and for at least an hour and just kick a few ideas about and engage with our absolutely amazing supporters. Thanks, guys. Yeah, what have you been up to?
Yeah, same as mate. Yeah, we obviously missed last week because I've been filming all weekend. So I was just by the time I got in, I was absolutely shattered. So yeah, that was a lot and great weekend though. I mean, just again, just more Pembrokeshire's just beautiful.
Yeah,
but to be honest, mate, anywhere out of this town is
really.
so yeah.
Do you think probably? Do you think we might all say that if we get a bit bogged down with place we live in, don't we? Do you know what I mean? At times.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I was speaking to Lee Roscoe as it happens over the weekend, and Mick and Bolton is. It can be depending on where you go. All towns have their own little idyllic little places, and affluent areas and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we're ready. We're ready for a move. So I think just when you visit, it's like when I come up and visit you. The drive to you, it's beautiful, isn't it? Like Yorkshire's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think people forget how much countryside there is in Great Britain. Outside of the towns, it is all hills, valleys, moorland, lake. It's just beautiful.
Well, on Friday, I went up onto Wolds. Me, Mary, Jess, Nick, and Noah. And it will lean towards unexplained phenomena, people, this, because I know that's what you're here for. And it was just brilliant. We went to a place called Hugate, and some people know where that is if you're familiar with the area. But these valleys, after Ice Age, it's carved out these glacial rifts, and it's just incredible. These deep valleys, looking at cattle down in Bottomot Valley, and the big fully grown animals, and they look like not little dots, but they look like toys, and it's just idyllic. It's brilliant. And I didn't take drone. I wish I'd have took the drone, but I had a little yarn on it. It's in the place, Chris. I don't know if you remember when we made Bringing Down the Light. We talked to that lovely lady called Elaine, who told us about driving to Hugate back home from Driffield. I think she'd been.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what she'd been doing. I think she might have been at her daughter's and fully charged phone. And need to stress that. And as she's driving around these little roads, she sees orange lights in the sky. Can you remember?
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, brilliant, exciting.
Yeah, and she's talking about them and sort of computing in her mind, these are torches, even though they're not torches because they're orange lights and they're not. There's no shaft of light. It's an orange light. Comes round a corner. There's a herd of deer, roe deer, and when she says a herd, I think 9 or 12 deer, all sort of huddled together, looking confused. She says they look startled, but not startled by her car, startled by lights above them. She went off the road, went down into one of these valleys and crashed a car. And it's an incredible account, and she got it wedged between two trees, couldn't open the door, got out of the back. She said, but when she looked round, the lights were coming down. Then there's a bit of a gap in her story because she don't know what happened, but she got out of the car. She thinks she was, I don't know, 20 minutes from home, she estimated on foot, probably 5 to 10 minutes or 5 minutes in car. And it took her about 2 hours to get home. And she doesn't know why. And when she set off, because Hugate, sorry, people. So Hugate's a pretty lonely, it's a beautiful village, but it's a pretty lonely place. It's in the middle of nowhere. She rang her husband to say, I'm on my way home. And she'd got a full charge on her phone. She couldn't ring him. The phone was flat. It's weird, isn't it? It's weird. So,
very, also commonplace, actually, in events like that as well, which is, I suppose, for her, probably kind of worrying. And it's no wonder a lot of people don't want to look into that missing time, I found.
No, well, there's a reason for it, I suppose. There's a reason why. Yeah, it was Eric Tyler that said to me, people have said, oh, would you get yourself regressed? To other people who've had some kind of interaction, but some things happen, but you can't quite remember. It's probably a good reason we don't remember. This is the trauma that we put in boxes. This is the PTSD that people who've been in combat shut away, and in some instances can't, and it just drives them absolutely nuts, So I don't think it's any different, and that's notable. We'll just have a name shout in a minute, but that's notable as well. Let's just play on that one, because I've spoke to military personnel, and I know you have, and they've seen combat and they've seen trauma and horrific things, but sometimes when they're retelling their experience, they say that the fear that they felt was off the scale, not actually more graphic and more frightening than the actual combat. So what's happening there? That's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that Elaine's case is, it's like many cases, you can dig a lot deeper. I mean, but as I said earlier, it's whether or not the witness is willing to go. And obviously, you don't want to push you down the road that, you know, I mean, look, the guy, I can't remember his name now, but who was the guy that you spoke to that saw the pyramids and he had those horrible dreams? You know, you don't want something like that happening.
Yeah. Absolutely, and there's so many cases. And as for this lady, I mean, she didn't come forward with a report. She's a seamstress. She might still be, and she was doing some adjustments to our youngest daughter's wedding dress, talking about unexplained, and she's just come out with this amazing story. And so
I bet you nearly fell off your chair, didn't you?
Well, just crazy, because I think you commented at time, and you made a good point. That's probably one of the only cases that we've heard of where spheres of light, because they weren't miles in the sky, these were just above the heads of these deer. There's an interaction. She said they seemed to be corralling them, seemed to be herding them. They looked confused. She came straight round the corner and went straight off the road, straight down into the valley. So, yeah, we were at Huggett. Long road round to tell you people we were at Huggett, but we were at Huggett on Friday. Absolutely brilliant. And let's just have a quick look in here then before we sort of crack on. And we know that we want some questions tonight, guys, because, as you see, it's just me and Chris, and you give us a fighting chance. I see that there's a question there from Paranormal Visitors. That's Lee, Steve Gelder, Banshee Studios, Jojo, John Paul Body. Good to see you all. Steve Collin, Art Bell, Jack Hills. Me and Jack saw something unusual last night. And Pete. I think Linny might be up there shortly because Linny will be in. Mrs. Linny, Mia Girl, Pete's in, I think. Carol Pointer, good to see you, Carol. And yeah, we'll stop at that because let's have a look. We've got well over 100 people in. Oh, Karen Behrman, Marky Mark, but we'll stop because otherwise I just keep doing it, don't I? Every time I see a name, I feel compelled to say it name. Tony Dixon, Steve, stop it.
Well, so, you just mentioned there that you did record something very interesting last night, and we're going to show you guys that in a bit.
Yeah. It was interesting in so much that it was Jack that saw it. I'd looked up, and I don't mean I saw it. You know the little star constellation. I'm useless with stars, but you can see a little cluster of stars, and I actually thought it was that. And then Jack said, "Is that moving?" So we put the cameras on it, and sure enough, it was. And it was like a row of lights. Now, we would have thought, and some people might say that's Starlink, but we'll give you some examples why we don't think it's Starlink. When we show the footage, I can't give you no examples to say it's some kind of alien-related object because it's probably man-made, but it's unusual. It's really unusual. And then John Walson, who you were talking about other week, Chris, and I messaged him tonight. He'd been filming with a thermal camera some objects at the side of aircraft, obviously that are invisible, and he'd just got some static images. I wish if I'd have contacted him and I've asked him if I could show him, but I've not done that. But last night I got the Pulsar thermal out, just having a scan around, and we'll get to this footage in a bit, people. Out over the sea, and we're going out miles. We're not going out 4 or 5 miles. We can see to the horizon from that vantage point about 15 to 17 miles. So we're way out over the sea. Jack had got the app on his phone. It's 38,000 foot. And there's a little dot in thermal, which is the heat signature of an aircraft. Jack, if you're in, tell us what aircraft it was, because I can't remember what it was, but not that it makes any difference. But I don't think I said it to lads, or I said something's just passed. As I'm looking at this, just a dot, a match head in the vastness of nothing. And you can't see, you're up in heavens. But something flies past it twice, really fast. But there's one of them that's really strange. And remember, this only detects a heat signature. So if it's, I don't know, you're not going to get a piece of paper flying miles out at sea, are you? Or anything like that. So you've only just seen it, haven't you? I just dragged it up earlier, and it's an interesting bit of footage, isn't it?
Yeah, well, what's in? Let's see what you guys think. I'm always interested.
Which one we're going with first? Which you doing first?
Do you want to do the thermal thing first?
Let's do the thermal. It's filmed on a Pulsar. I don't know. It's a 38 XQ or something. And please, people, focus on the little dot. That is an aircraft. That's the only reason I would taking a leaf out of John's book and seeing whether anything would show up on thermal that we can't see with normal vision. Obviously, we can see the aircraft and I can see the heat signature, but just watch this. You might not think it's anything impressive, but just have a look. Do you want to put it up, Chris, or shall I? I'll do it. I think that's the one. Watch me put wrong one up. So that's flown past. There's the dot. That's the aircraft. Just watch this. Then I slow it down a bit. That's obviously the same one played twice.
Yeah,
well, that's miles out over at sea. So I don't know what you guys think that is, but that is miles out over the sea. Do you want to play it again?
Yeah, go on, play it again. It's interesting because you'll notice that it's tumbling, this thing, whatever it is.
Yeah. So there we go. This one that's the main one. The little dot, as we've said, I'm repeating, I know, it's an aircraft.
There you go. So it's tumbling. And when it turns at a certain angle, it kind of does look sort of spherical, doesn't it? Like
it does. Yeah,
sorry, more or less disc shaped.
It's difficult, isn't it? But I mean, this is something we've not done. You know, we use thermal. We sweep around land with it, and just very rarely do I put thermal up to look at an heat signature on an aircraft. It were only that John had been doing it and obtained some images. So I thought, yeah, well, let's give that a go. So come on, guys, if you've got an answer to that, I'm quite happy for it to be an earthbound answer. Not everything has to be true and explain phenomena, but just remember that aircraft is miles out and it's 38,000 feet. We know that looks well. It looks, if it's not closer, it's very big. But we're not going to get.
Sorry, Matt. We should probably say that scope you use is a 50 mil. It's got a 50 mil lens, has it?
Yeah.
And it's a monocular. So in essence, a 50 mil, it's kind of like a bit of a portrait. They're meant really for scoping for the hunting, aren't they?
It's a narrow field of vision, isn't it? It's a narrow field of vision. And that's why it looks like, I mean, obviously the object's tumbling, but that's why when someone's holding it, it looks like you're moving about a lot because you've not got a great wide field of vision.
Actually, I'm just going to have a look now. What is it an XP50?
No, it's a QX or an XQ38. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, XQ38.
X, not F. X or QX.
Yeah, XQ38. Yep. I'm just trying to see what lens it is. It's got a 16-degree field of view, so it's difficult to. When you look at the other thing with thermal is it's difficult to know how near or far an object is from the lens. But what you said earlier is right. That's not a leaf.
No, well,
over the North Sea.
A leaf. Well, it's not just spot on. A leaf or a piece of paper, a bit of cardboard does not throw up a heat signature.
No.
And Jack will back me up on this, and Pete will. We never saw that. I'm stood filming the aircraft, but we never see anything other than the aircraft or these spheres of light. But it just shows it's probably worth having a go at filming things, with the thermal. What's this question here? Paranormal Visitors question. The Truth Proof special from last night on YouTube. What do you two think we're dealing with? Gareth, what Gareth saw? I don't know if you watched it, Chris, did you?
Yeah, I watched some of it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this was 2022, and he's a great guy, is Gareth. He's not making any claims that this is a cryptid. It was just something that completely stumped him. there's somebody put in comments that sometimes the corn only grows to 12-inch, certain types of corn, and he believes they're foxes. Great. That's a good suggestion, but he's adamant that they weren't foxes. He said the necks and the shoulders, it's a similar description to what the military guys gave. It's a similar description to what them two women saw further up, and I don't know what they are. I mean, I'm absolutely 100% of the belief that there are no animals resembling hyenas evading detection anywhere in the UK. I don't think there is anyway. So they're definitely something, in my opinion, of a paranormal nature if they're being seen. Somebody put a comment in saying, did any of the farmers ever report anything? And somebody commented underneath, probably not. So I'm assuming that's a farmer, but I don't know whether it is or it isn't. But the point is, farmers have reported stuff to me. 100% they have. There's some of them that there's one particular farmer that's reported stuff to me that is so not paranoid. He just doesn't want. There's some people that even if they knew anything, they'd never tell you. So you're not going to get Joe Public getting to know about the things that they've seen and experienced. And I'm not saying they all see things and all experience things, but yeah, they definitely have seen things in and around that area.
Well, also, if you remember when we did, I think it was bringing down. No, it might have been the Vimpton phenomenon. You remember when we went to the harbour, didn't we? And we interviewed the fisherman.
Yeah.
And he'd seen one back in the day when he was hunting. Do you remember?
That's right.
He said he jumped over a hedge, landed he said it looked like an horse. He described it, an horse.
A hoss. H-O-S.
Yeah. But then he said, this look of a hyena. And how many times have we heard that description about the hyena? I think Rob said it as well.
I think that were in late 1970s. I can't remember the date, and it was at a place called Grindale. And if you've not heard it briefly, Chris has just about outlined it. This guy was doing a bit of hunting. He'd got a friend with him, and he'd whether regardless of what you subscribe to, he were a man of the woods and things. So he caught rabbits and shot hares and things. Even if people don't like the idea of that, it's not something I do, it's not something Chris does, but this is the story. And the game just disappeared. And he couldn't understand it. And then on this particular day, he's in one field and the next field's got a hedge going along it. I think he said it were about 12-foot high hedge, but went up and the field at the other side was about 4 foot high. So it made the hedge look even higher. So edge could have been 8 foot. Do you know what I mean? But there's a 12-foot drop. He said, and this thing comes straight over the edge. He said, and it landed as though it were on Velcro. That's what I found interesting. He says, if it were a horse, it'd jump over and have to carry on running because of the momentum. He says, this thing just landed and stopped. And he still lives in area, and he's not seen anything like it since that day or before that day. And that's telling, isn't it? For the people that say, well, I don't believe a word or any of these stories. I've lived there all my life and I've never seen it. Well, that fella's lived there all his life and he's seen something once. Actually, twice, something different, driving on a push bike back from Bridlington years before that. But that weren't what he saw that on that occasion. He said it was brindle in colour, built like a bodybuilder, he said, his exact words, he said it had an hyena stroke, I don't know, some kind of nasty dog looking face. And his exact words, so it had no ass. So he said, you've seen the bodybuilders where they're all top and big legs, and then the very small on waist and backside. That were his exact words. So I say it how he said it. He said, and it looked, when it jumped over, he says, if it were a horse, it would have ran. He said, but it didn't. It just stopped. It looked at him and then carried on going over fields into a place called Foxcover Wood.
He also said, if you remember, it had a bit of a mane, didn't he? If you remember, he said it looked like a lion.
A lion's mane. Yeah. Which is a report that comes often on the Thorn, at the back of Thorn Prison near Doncaster. There's some, they call it the Thorn Moors, but I don't think it's anything like the Moors or anything like in North Yorkshire. And there's a guy shooting and with a shotgun, and he's walking the Thorn Moors. It's pretty scrubland with gorse bushes, not thick forested or anything like that. And in between some gorse bushes, not in the night. He claims this thing walked in the gap between them on 2 legs. And he said, people will have heard me. He said it just terrified him. He just absolutely just melted with fear. He said, I've got a shotgun in my hand and had no intention of even lifting it. I don't even think it looked at him. And he says its air was just bouncing as though it had come out of a salon. It's crazy. It's just crazy. And yeah, and I don't mean I love it because people can't get their head around it, but it really is an head bender. And if you'd never heard of anything like this, you can understand why people would go, what a load of BS. Can you hear these? There's a grown bloke there, he's in his 60s and he's talking about this. Listen, to you, if you're listening to it, these people who are reporting these things come across to me as being 100% genuine, and for the most part, none of them know each other, and they're actually coming looking for answers. So don't dismiss it just because you've not seen and experienced it. That's all I would say.
That, Paul. I mean, Lee was saying there, he's saying, what do you guys think it is? And it's not even like you can go down for a lot of these things, probably at least 50% of these things. You can't even go down the Tulpa road with all of this phenomena, because these are interactions. This is not just a thought form that someone's conjured up, or they've manifested it somehow, or unknowingly, or it's been dragged somewhere from in the consciousness by the phenomena, or whatever that might be. This is an interaction. These things are most of the time going about the business. They're actually like the girl that you interviewed. I think it was for Wolflands. She was stood on the cliff tops with her husband, and this dog thing was sat looking out to sea, wasn't it?
That's right.
On one of the.
They thought it was a statue. They thought somebody had placed some kind of, not monument but statue, and until it kind of turned its head, and then I think it was Lee heard it growl. He heard a growl, and then it just lowered down and sort of slinked off like a cat, and they were frightened. Once again, people that don't know anything about the area, really, it's just fascinating.
Also, you can jump back to was he called Lee that we interviewed that saw it cross? It ran across the road, and he described that one as looking like it had extra proportional limbs. He said it had almost looked like it had been stretched. A very common Harry Potter type description.
There's a lot of people, when myself, and this sort of applies to what you're talking about, when myself and Bob Brown were on the cliff tops, and we when people were allowed to go out and just take a bit of fresh air during COVID, and we ended up parking at one of the farms back of Bempton there. A farmer allowed us on to park up, and we walked over to cliff tops rather than go to RSPB. And, we didn't know whether they'd be restricting people from going up there. And a guy walked up that night, and he walked up with his dog and asked us if we were bird spotting. And we don't go, oh, well, no, to be honest with you, we're looking for UFOs, mate. You don't invite a conversation like that unless it sort of comes round. And off he goes into the night, comes back later, but it's dark. And so he realizes that we're not looking for seabirds. I know I've done this story before, but so he asked us, and we told him, and he said that he lived further down the coast at Reeton, which is just about joins on with Speeton. The names are just about identical, aren't they? Said he'd never seen anything, never seen a thing, and windows that overlook the sea. He'd not looked. Maybe he draws his curtains. Maybe he's just not interested. And just as he's leaving, Bob said to him, "What about any strange animals? What about there's been a big cat seen, a black cat?" That's, I've said it loads of times, that's kind of your way in. People can just about bend their head around the fact that there might be a big cat. Something could have escaped. Something could have, I don't know, bred or whatever, So he just told his dog to stop and made his dog sit down. He said, "I'm going to tell you something." And then he told us this story. I've been walking on November the 12th, 2019, which was a full moon. Which were, I don't mean it were brilliant, but that were good. We could sort of label that, and we don't think there's a correlation to the moon with these things either. But he's on the beach from Reeton, walking to Speeton, and I know exactly where he was. He described Black Cliff, and it's the black clay that pours out onto the beach and goes down into the sea, and this is where all the fossils are. As I said, there used to be a group called the Friends of Speech and Clay back in the 70s, and you get all these Annamites and incredible fossils down there.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, diverting. He were keen to tell us how good his dog was. And if it sees a pheasant, because it's a gun dog, it'll stand in a certain stance. If it sees a rabbit, he kind of knew, because he understood his dog, what game it were looking at. But he couldn't work out what his dog were doing because it were acting peculiar. And when he looked up, halfway up the cliffs at Speeton are vertical, but this kind of taper off to about 45 degrees. And he can see an animal that he thinks might be a goat or a small pony. And then it stood up, he says, on two legs. He says, and it looked, and I could see the silhouette of it. And then it ran away over the cliffs. Does it sound impossible for anybody joining last transmission and listening to us talking about this? Well, think on, we're in good company, because there's a lot of people listening to last transmission, listening to Paranormal Roundtable, listening to Truth Proof, listening to Steve Stockton, all these brilliant channels, because they've had experiences of their own, and they're just gleaning a bit of information and taking a bit of comfort from the fact that they're not actually going nuts, you know?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I don't know how, look, it's like anything. Look, it's a punt, isn't it? These are just ideas. But have we ever really discussed any form of military connection with these things? No obvious and logical reason why you would. However, it is another common denominator in this.
Well, excuse me. It's interesting, isn't it, that there's quite a lot of reports of these things being seen around military installations.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't got enough detail to tell you any more than what I'm going to speak now, and it's still pretty vague. But I've got report of military personnel pursuing what he thought were something like a dogman stroke werewolf over Fylingdales, near the Fylingdales RAF base, on a quad bike.
Yeah.
I've got no more than that. If anybody ever listens to this and a new other person, give me some more. Because there's lots of stories. There's the big cat run over up around Fylingdales, and that were in the Whitby Gazette. So we know it got ran over, and that were a puma, and that I think that got picked up in a JCB bucket and taken somewhere. I'm not going to say where because I don't know. So I know that's not a cryptid, but that's for the people that say these cats aren't here. So you'd have to go back. I don't know what year you'd go back to. You're probably going back to 1995, 96. But they were a big cat that were knocked over up on the moors near Fylingdales. And I think it were a puma. So, yeah, we're jumping all over the place, but it's still information, isn't it?
No, well, it's relevant. I mean, look, it's a really interesting question, because it's, where once the cryptid phenomena wasn't really part of what you were doing at all. Now it's become very fundamental, and in fact, in a lot of these hotspots, it's the thing that was never talked about, for years.
Well, you're spot on, and there's so many sort of researchers and organisations that cherry pick what they want and weed out the little bits of the unexplained phenomena that they don't think conforms. Oh, we're only interested in UFOs. I mean, that's where the incredible Jacques Vallée and John Keel sort of stood out amongst, in my opinion, other people interested in researching this subject, because they realized that everything, all the ingredients and all the cogs were turning when things are unfolding. And it's not, if you're interested in UFOs, then be prepared to look at other stuff as well, because if you dismiss it, then you're dismissing part of the research, aren't you?
Absolutely. Susan, I'll just answer this, mate. Can I say where I was filming in Pembrokeshire? Yes, all over, Susan. So I was filming anywhere from Tally Abbey, Whitland Abbey, St Dogmiles Abbey, St David's, Kilgarran, Treguinness, Longbarrow, just so many places all over, covering all of Wales. And thankfully, I was in the car with Ellis, not walking it like he did. So, although we did do some, it's mountainous, so you're carrying. And hence why Paul, a bit off topic, but Paul's talking about getting rid of these cameras that we're using at the moment because they weigh a bloody ton. So when you are carrying that gear up mountains and up in through forests for miles and miles, it's so heavy.
So I'll just throw that out there. But I've got a Blackmagic 6K Pro that's just like brand new. absolutely. Like it's just like if you bought a brand new one, you'd sit them side by side, you wouldn't know it's for sale. And I don't want to look like what I paid for it, so I just need something smaller, really, that fits in a rucksack and you can walk about comfortable with it. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and I think you're going to go down that route, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, look, if we didn't do so much walking around, I'd probably stick with it because that's, as everybody, if you don't know cameras, it's a very, if you're new and you're wanting to get into using cameras, Blackmagics are so easy to use. They are really easy cameras to use. It's a beautiful image, just looks beautiful. But again, they're a cinema camera, so you get a cinema look, but you get the weight to go with it. But each to their own. It depends on what your needs are, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Karen Behrman saying, hi, Karen. She's saying, Paul and Chris, have either of you put out a verbal or a thought question to what you've been, you've seen or sensed anything to see if you get anything back to whatever it might be? I hope this makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know whether you have, Chris, have you?
Every time I come up to you, I do it. Yeah, every single time I come up and we just sit up there. There's a lot of, generally, there's quite a lot of quiet time, isn't there? Because for the most part, and we try explaining this to people, don't we? 99.9% of the time, maybe slightly less these days, you're seeing bloody nothing. So you're doing these sort of thought experiments, even if it's with yourself. Come on, you're saying, come on, just show yourself. Just show yourself.
Just give us something, and you definitely do. And I think we'd all be lying if we said we don't do that from time to time. I mean, I do it regular, and even if I'm not saying it to other people, like you've just said, you're saying it in your mind. You're not just thinking, "Oh, I've come up here." Let's have a little bit of interaction, and let's face it, Karen. If we agree, or we all agree, then if you're into spiritualism, there's clairaudience and something of the unexplained, be it ghosts or something that's tricking us, it speaks to you in your mind. The alien abduction scenario, you're laid there, you're incapacitated. These things are speaking to you in your mind. So using that as a template, if we are putting the thoughts out there and asking the questions, then whatever it is that is the phenomena can hear those thoughts. I would think anyway. So I think your question was great there, Karen, because it's more than valid. And where we're going?
Yeah,
next?
I mean, look, it's all relevant, mate. Because also, I think the other thing that gets thrown out with a bathwater a lot of the time, even though I'd say every few months we'll get Nathaniel back on, but I think it's the one element of this genre that we just forget about it. And there's not many people doing what Nathaniel's doing, and I think it's such a fundamental part of what we're dealing with. Because when you start looking at what all those occultists were doing, and they were dealing with all this elements of the phenomena as well, it has a major part to play, and back into ancient times. So nothing's changed, does it? I know we keep banging on about this, but nothing's changed.
But you've got to bang on about it, Chris, because you're absolutely spot on. Just recently, I've been talking about what, and I don't mean all aspects of the phenomena. I mean people who claim to have been taken on board a UFO, something structured, unless the intelligence that is the phenomena has got so entrenched in somebody's mind that they've made them believe that that's what's happened. Then there's something structured. But what if we know that the Tibetans believe that they can create thought forms and these things exist. What if this crushes people who go ghost hunting or believe in life after death? I believe there's something after this, but I still like to throw it out there. What if there are no ghosts? What if it's us that's creating them? What if it's our thoughts, that deep, concentrated thought of sorrow, of grief, and emotion, and that's why when people say I've done it. I only did it the other day, so sorry for repeating myself, people. But they looked through a window and they could see one of their relatives who they loved, and then they just faded away. What if we've just created that thought? What if it's our brain giving us that comfort? I'm not saying it is, and I want to believe that there's something after this life. I mean, let's face it, I'm probably closer than someone to see an end of it. But you know where I'm going with it. I think we've just got to throw all these little hooks out there, because I know somebody in chat's going to just give me a little bit of a bite and send me off in another direction, which is great. That's why I throw them all out, because we've just got to think a little bit outside of the box. That's all we can do, Chris.
Yeah, and there's a lot. There's lots to talk about, and there's a lot of different angles you can come at this. And there's always new stuff to be added. By the way, it might be a smart, and it might be someone's account. How many times? A lot of the times, if you do a lot of abduction research, like I did with the MyLab stuff, a lot of the accounts are very, very, very similar, and that's the pattern that you're looking for. But every so often, I think a lot of the stuff that we're after is locked in that trauma, and you don't want to. People don't want to visit that. Why would they want to? But some people really want to visit that. And on occasion, when they do, they'll reveal something really interesting, something profound, different, that I hadn't heard before. So, in the scheme of things, if you look at modern day ufology, how long have we actually really properly been looking at the phenomena? And our hands are tied anyway. We're being, most of the stuff's kept hidden from us. So we're dealing with, you're not even playing with half a deck of cards. You're playing with, God, I reckon 10% of them, if that. So we've got a task on our hands for sure.
Right. Decades ago in Scotland, a conversation with our minister made us think he knew a lot more about local cryptids than he would say. There you go, Scotch. In that a shame. Obviously, you never got to find out anymore. But if you're still in area, although you're on here, so you must have an avid interest, it'd be good to find out, wherever you were from and see whether there were any locals, people who worked the land, people who walked in the area in remote places, if they'd seen or experienced anything. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that's another religion per se, is another thing where there's a lot of stuff hidden within it. Purposely, and
But I don't think there's any difference, when people praying and they say they connect with God and they feel God's presence, to people who are, I don't know. I don't mean that it's the same thing, but it's a phenomenon. It's a supernatural being that people are connecting with, whether you like that analogy or not. Because if you read the good book, if you read the Bible, then the things that are in it, that people who don't believe what we're talking about today and go to church and get married in churches, the things that are in that book are absolutely not of this world. Some of the things that people claim to have seen, some of the events that took place in them. You've only look at Ezekiel, haven't you? You've only got, there's lots and lots of things. And a scroll dropped down from heaven. And on this scroll, on this sheet, this white sheet, I saw many, many different types of animal, the likes of which I'd never seen before. And it sounds like a cinema screen that's been dropped down to show them. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, with the limited vocabulary of the day, they won't sell out. We went and there were a big, 20-foot screen that we were all watching at this concert kind of thing. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of things in holy books that, well, they are. The stories are just as fantastical as some of the things that we're talking about today, yet it seems acceptable.
Yeah, well, I weirdly enough, I did some more John Keel stuff today, and he talks about when he was researching, he was looking into the resurrection, and in that period, the story goes that three men appeared and took Jesus from that tomb, from that cave. Glowing, they were described as like luminous beings, and I suppose back in the day, you would have said they were probably angelic beings, wouldn't you? That's probably
absolutely, yeah.
And often you don't really hear that. It just they sealed up the cave, and then and there he went. And it all happened. That's not the way it's written, by all accounts. So yeah, fascinating.
And we didn't talk to play on religion too much, but we are just my thoughts on it. There are lots of pieces of the Bible that are omitted because they don't fit the narrative of what they want us to believe. Do you know what I mean? So what is it? The apocryphas. So anyway, I'll stop.
Yeah, so much of it, all that divine feminine stuff has just been hidden stuff that put out of the way.
So what's Linny saying?
Paul Chris, what's your thoughts on the thing we filmed at the crossing bit? at the crossing, a bit bigger than the two in the field, but as the crow flies, it's not far at
Not
all.
far at all. You're absolutely spot on, Ian. And for people that don't know this, we did have that bit of film, didn't we? But we've not planned to talk about it. Me and Ian coming home in the van. I think we were in your van, weren't we, Ian? But regardless, we're coming home. I'm in passenger seat. Ian says there's something just cross road. Of course, his dash cam's caught it. We're near the railway crossing, so we know that we've got the red flashing lights, which are off. But it also gives us a good gauge, and to the underside of the lights, it were 8 foot. Whatever it is, that's very vague, but it can't be denied. It's passing. His head's about the centre of the light, so it makes it over 8 foot tall. And I mean, we've been there. We've been on sort of ground zero, if you like. And Ian's held his hand up and took pictures. And I don't know, something there for the people in the area who say, I don't believe in any of this. Watch that bit of film and you tell us what it is, because it can't be a horse or anything. It runs into a wall. There's literally a wall there, because you've got crossing barriers that come down, and there's a wall where this thing went. So I don't know what. I have no idea what it was that his camera caught there.
And but, have you guys been filming using the dash cams to film that journey back?
Yeah. Last night, when I came home last night, I mean, I had camera on dashboard at car, Psionics fixed actually, and I film every time from that area, because once again we've got a localized area, and you feel like you're trying to prove it to everybody all the time, but that's the same spot where the red light flashed above my car, which he caught on his dash cam. That's the spot where the huge orange explosion of light flashed behind my car. So, and that's literally, I think, probably all within 100 yards of one another. If it's more, it's not much more than 100 yards away. So you wonder what's significant about that little portion of land, don't you? You know?
Yeah, there's some odd going on there. You could argue that it's quite worrying, actually.
Well, you could, but nobody seems to get hurt, do they? And no. And it's like the things that we've seen up there. Nobody's up there on a night. Or very rarely. You do get people milling about, but very rarely do you get people up there. And so who's going to see this stuff? Do you know what I mean? And you know, and the actual benchmark are the fishermen, because they go up there in the winter. It's them that put me onto it. They've all seen it. You know, I mean, there's a guy in chat now, hook, line, and sinker, or he were in chat. That's Chris, and he's seen the orange spheres of light. He's sort of been in contact with me now for a few years, and a lot of the fishermen have. And now, when they're being seen, I get text off them. And they're trying to get pictures of them. It's very difficult to get pictures of these things with a phone. But, you know, it's just...
That's the point, mate. I mean, have the amber lights not shown up for a while then?
I think... Jack will correct me. Somebody will, or Pete. Somebody saw one orange one the other night. Just one orange light up. I didn't see it. Out over the sea. But no, it's been pretty sparse for that, but there's still all this other stuff that, you know, somebody heard my voice on Clifftop. Well, it were Jack and Pete heard my voice on Clifftop again last week, but I weren't there. I were further down. I'd gone somewhere else. I were on Cliffs, but I met up with them, but I were further down. But they both said that they heard me, or it sounded like me. It's just weird. So go on.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's weird. Do you think that it's because, I mean, before, years ago, the attention would have always been, wouldn't it, up in the sky?
Absolutely.
So it would have always been, let's wait for these amber lights, because that's what we're waiting for. Whereas now, because you guys have got all this other stuff going on, particularly behind you, a lot of the time, I wonder. I mean, look, you could be missing them because you're not always looking up in the skylight like you used to do. But is it potentially because your attention is not focused there? Maybe, I don't know.
It could be. You know, it could be. We've noted that we're not. I don't mean we're not looking up in the sky. Obviously, and we've got these cameras now that we set them off filming, and they'll film for 3 hours. You know, and hoping to catch things. But we've noted that whatever it is, it's around us, and sometimes it's so subtle that you're not even noticing it, and we're not imagining it. Do you know? You know the night that Martin. I don't know if Martin Abbas is in chat and he's been on holiday, so he might not be. Martin came up and he's going, "Hey guys, listen, listen, listen," and he'd been saying it for 10 seconds before we even paid attention to him. But there's a noise, and it's down cliffs, and then it's underneath our feet, then it's at other side at stand, then it's in field, and you could follow it, and it sounded like two, you know, in curling stones, those hard granite stones, knocking together real fast, real strange. Is it paranormal? Is it some strange animal? I don't know. It was still unusual. If there's an earthbound explanation, it's still fascinating. Let's just address this. So Linny says, Paul, I have more footage from their different night dash cam. Again, very strange with audio and flashes. Yeah, I think we talked about it, Ian. We'll have to go through that and then put the thing that crosses on the crossing. Although we know we've done it on here, put it out and do a little number on that because it's strange. And when you say more footage, I'm assuming, because I think it's from same area once again. Why there? And we're in strange clicks on the dash cam. Real, and you know when you put them into resolve, you can see, you know, when there's one going to come up, and it's a big click that comes up for some reason. But it's usually when something's been seen, almost electrical.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So John Paul Body, I'm looking at the possibility that the bipedal candid-like creatures come in many shapes and sizes. It certainly seems that way with the reports. Do we think they share the same origin? Obviously, John, you're not here to answer what I would turn it on you and say, do you think so? You've seen them. This guy's had an incredible, not just one sighting. You know, I spent some time with John, and absolutely incredible experience that you've had, mate, honestly. From same origin. If they're not from same origin, John, I think if it's science, it's not science, is it? But they're using the same, we'll call it exotic science, to simplify it, to do what they're doing and to enable us to see them. And I don't mean that they actually know they're employing something to enable us, but I think it's the same kind of whatever it is that they use. I can't think of a proper and more fitting word than an exotic science that they're all using. I think they're all using the same methods to make themselves visual to us or to get into our sphere of existence. But what do I know? What do you think, John? What do you think, Chris? What does everybody in chat think?
I think, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's not and I don't even know why I think this. It's not a belief I share, but there are some people that think this is ET. They think that whatever this is, and there's no, you know, when you think about it logically, like, there's no real reason why it isn't as valid a reason as anything else. It's only because these things share a resemblance with a wolf, something we're familiar with, or an ape, something we're familiar with. But they don't exist in the fossil record, whatever these things are. They may exist in historic accounts, and we know they do. They exist in occult accounts. But are these things simply from somewhere else? I mean, and if they are, these portal areas, we know, well, we don't know anything for a fact, but we've been told from the MOD guy that Bempton is a portal. And everyone keeps saying, well, portal, it's sci-fi. This is mainstream science now. Believe these portal regions exist. I think they know exactly what they are and how they function.
Yeah.
But there's supposed to be everywhere, these things. And just recently, the work I did with Ellis Taylor, we visited a site, an abbey, where there was a portal there, and demonic entities were coming out of it. And part of his job was to clear that area up. So it's going on. And the big question, where do these portals lead to?
Yeah, where do they lead to? I mean, when we did a bit of filming for this documentary, we interviewed Lisa, who were on the beach at Speeton. I'm not saying this were a portal, but she were with her partner or husband, and they observed in daylight something like about 30-inch deep, 15-inch across, oval, tic-tac shaped, shimmering light. I don't know what it was, just bubble of energy on the beach that they could walk around and look at. I would have wanted to touch it. She was looking up the cliff thinking there's somebody with a mirror, but you'd need a mirror to reflect, you'd need a background to reflect it off. She said that they could actually see around it, and it was just like rippling, but a solid shape. Not ETs that you're looking at miles away. They were up close and personal to it. That's a strange thing, isn't it? Was that a portal? I don't know.
Studio 1. This is Andy. If the big cats were released under the Dangerous Wild Animals Act in 76, why not hyenas? Apparently, they can be domesticated.
Yeah, they have. I think that in some parts of Africa, they have the hyena men, don't they? That keep these dogs on and they walk about with on chains. I mean, I don't think I'd want one. But do you think, Studio? Do you think, Andy, that we wouldn't know about it if one of these things were on the loose? I don't see it myself. But what do I know? I just don't see how these things could remain hidden. And let's face it, I mean, nothing would be safe, would it? They're fearless, them things, aren't they? I genuinely believe that we're looking at something of a paranormal nature. And listening to the reports that have come out of the area of Danes Dyke and on the North Yorkshire moors and up on the Wolds, you know, when Richard D. Hall came through years ago, and we were doing the Wolds UFOs, and we were on the Wolds talking and everything. And I got talking to a farmer who'd seen a big cat that he thought were a female lion. He says, and it just walked down the hillside and into one of them valleys. But no, there's no reports of any livestock being taken. I'm not saying it's paranormal. I just don't know. But none of it makes sense. It really doesn't, does it? You know, like I always say, Chris, we are the skeptic, the debunkers. Perfect. We are the dream scenario because we're talking about things. People in chat are talking about things, and we haven't got an ounce of proof to back up what we're talking about. Nobody's got a credible big cat picture. Nobody's got a credible cryptid picture. Yet people have got very traumatic memories of seeing and experiencing these things. There's got to be a reason. And to me, it's not an earthbound reason that people just aren't connecting and getting this evidence that we should be getting. Pete, it was Jack who saw the orange light. He said it looked like, that's correct, an old French car headlight.
Yeah.
So it was a yellowy orange colour. Yeah, it was Jack. Yeah, thanks, Pete. Yeah.
Just reading a comment though from 40 and 23, and he said, I heard Chris mention the occult and links to this phenomenon, and I 100% agree. There are things around us at times that we have absolutely no idea about. And interestingly, the name 14, like Charles Fort, came to the same conclusion. The whole idea of a 14 was that these things, they investigate things of an unknown nature, I suppose. How do you describe them? That's what Charles Fort started doing, didn't he? He just gathered accounts from all over the world of these the Yetis, Bigfoots, whatever, you name it, from everywhere.
Well, do you know, Chris? And I'm sorry for cutting across because this has flown tonight, and I'm happy to go on a bit longer if you are. It's up to you.
Yeah. Well, we've
not shown that footage, have we? Shall we just have a little dabble with that footage in a moment?
Oh, yeah, shit, yeah. I forgot that.
Let's just give you a breakdown, guys. On last night, I know I did it a little bit. Me, Jack, and Pete, and Jack noticed this object. He says, "Is that moving?" So we turned the cameras onto it, the Psionics cameras, and sure enough, there's this strip that's moving. I think Jack said, "Is it the Starlink?" And we filmed the Starlink. Myself and Pete filmed it quite a lot a couple of years ago. So I threw a few images up from the Truth Proof website of Starlink, so we know what that's looking like. This is a strip of light. Now, some people might still be saying, "Well, yeah, those are satellites," but wait till you see what happens towards the end. Do you want to put it on, Chris, or do you want me to?
I can put it on if you want. Yeah, it's
there's nothing planned. So, sorry, Chris, it's fascinating. There's nothing planned. So, what we're talking about on Cliffs, we're not swearing, but there you go.
Yeah, here we go.
I don't think that's Starlink, but I could be wrong.
That's what I was thinking about.
Can you see the other satellites with it?
So this. Oh, we can see Comet, Pete.
And there's a Comet.
Yeah, I'll just film this and then I'll pass.
So, sorry, Paul, I'll just pause that. This is you and Pete. And you
this is me and Pete years before with the Starlink. I think we missed a little bit of that, unless the front end. I don't know whether I thought there were a bit more, but there might. Shall I put this on
What is that? That's interesting, isn't it?
That must be SpaceX, not there. the satellites, what they called?
I don't think that's Starlink, but I could be wrong.
That's the word I was thinking about. But
So, Paul's, you're showing now Starlink that you filmed a few years
ago, yeah. And if you look, if you imagine Starlink there to the right hand side, if you look to the left, there's actually a comet there as well, which were advertised. They said it was difficult to see. We're on news and that we'd be able to get data that I probably dated it anyway, but. So yeah, we know what the Starlink.
Oh, we can see Comet, Pete.
oh, can you?
Yeah, I'll just film this and then I'll pass it you, so I can just see Comet there.
Comet.
Yeah, and there, yeah, that's right. And there's Starlink, all coming up. Look at that. That's amazing.
Back to last night now, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just. It's a wild guess, Paul, because I really don't fucking know.
We've ruled out space station, by the way. But
Whatever it is, there's two small satellites in front of it.
Well, there's actually 4 if you study it. But,
It is, isn't it? I'll tell you what, you get it with your camera, Pete, that.
That thing, it's fucking crazy. You got Pete.
Jack put the binoculars on it, and he said it looked like spheres of light very closely bunched together. More Starlink.
And I assume it's the Starlink.
Yeah, it's definitely not Starlink. I mean,
how good is that?
I've been on a few sites.
Look at that.
And they're saying that it is not ISS and it's not Starlink.
No. So then we can rule out Starlink in a minute when you see what I get on about. And you can hear it's windy up there, guys, can't you? I haven't bothered cleaning the audio up or anything, just throwing it on here for you.
Well, I'll just keep filming it till it...
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm.
You see that cloud that's just coming across like a band of light?
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
I only know
which is there.
Afterwards. You see that? Can you see that, guys?
Just put it on that because we've... That's a strange... Would you even call it a cloud?
It looks like a vapor trail.
Yeah?
But it's coming
of that thing.
I'm not sure, Paul, but it's very similar direction to that, isn't it?
Yeah, I just can't get them both in. So that's there still, and if I just go back at the same angle, yeah, it's leaving a trail, isn't it?
It looks like it.
Good point. So I follow that down. I might just get the last bit of that thing there. But there's a gap between it. But it's definitely leaving a trail, Jack, isn't it?
There's about 12 independent lights.
Trail. And it goes to that. I just got that in bottom and start of it there.
Which would indicate they're in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But no jet.
If I could turn it that way, I might get it. Yeah, you can see it now. I turn it that way and it's there.
So I don't know what you think, guys. Probably something man-made, but unusual. Not something that we see often up there. Not something we see ever up there. Not often.
It's definitely odd. I mean, like I say, it's definitely not Starlink and it's not the ISS. So it's not like I say, we're not ruling out that it could be another satellite that we're not aware of. But if it is,
but what leaves the vapor trail? There seems to be a gap, but that plume followed it all the way across the sky.
So where say, Paul, say you're looking out to sea now on the RSPB stand.
Yeah.
Are you looking directly up now into the sky above you?
We were at first, and then it just goes over towards the horizon. I would have thought east. It's going. It's not northeast, but it's in the easterly direction. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought, because that's even more proof that it's not either of the ISS or Starlink. So it's definitely not that. So whatever it is, like I say, it's is this some sort of is this the latest weather modification thing? Perhaps out at night, which is the new thing that they do now. Maybe.
But then we got the fast-moving object, which I just picked up at the end. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's interesting that. And that's all. That's like, yeah. What trajectory would that be, Paul? What would it? It's not a What I'm saying is, it's not a meteor, is it?
Oh, the fast-moving object.
Yeah.
I suppose it could have been, but it looked like it was going slightly uphill. I don't think they go uphill.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, and but it just ran out. I only caught a sight of it last off as I was just downloading a bit of footage earlier, so I just slowed a piece down to throw on for you guys.
I wonder if it's worth just. I know it's all again going back to checking footage and stuff, but how you bought that. Both of us, I think we bought that mount for the Psionics and for the thermal, and I wonder if you should start mounting them together.
Yeah.
And just leaving them recording.
Well, maybe, but as people realise or know, the batteries on the Psionics are so poor.
Yeah, they're a bit crap, aren't they?
You're lucky to get 25 minutes out of one, whereas the cheaper the camera, you'll get 3 hours.
I'll do it with that. I mean, the Psionics. Yeah. Could you use a power bank on it instead?
That'd be possible, wouldn't it? That'd be possible, yeah. But but then we've got that narrow field of vision with the thermal, aren't we? We're not going to get that same field of vision. But anyway, it's anything's worth considering.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's interesting. No matter what, yet another interesting piece of footage. So
yeah, and please note, people, we're not saying it's from outer space. We're just saying that we filmed some just slightly off the path of normal, should we say? So there you go. So what we got? Right, Richard says, yes, I saw that about 3 weeks ago. Ah, good. About 8 to 10 lights, all close together, going towards Beverley, 10:30. Yeah, thanks, Richard. So that's pointing us into an earthbound direction. If Richard's saying he's seen it, because Beverley's not far from where we are, so I would imagine you'd have been looking at the same a window of sky, should we say? What's Beverley from Bempton? 20 mile. And in the grand scheme of things, up in Evans, you're going to see quite a lot, aren't you? So yeah, thank you.
Well, let's do some digging around. Let's see if we can find out if it is a new satellite that they've launched. Yeah. Or
it don't burst my bubble at all. I'm happy to find out what it was. And I'm right. What's he saying, David Hunt? Do you think that they are going to try and pull a fake UFO attack with the Atlas A3A and the narrative they are pushing with that? Are they pushing narrative, David, or is it ufologists and scientists within ufology that's pushing the narrative?
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting. I think that the downside of modern day, I suppose, it's the ufologists are so infiltrated now, and not always on purpose. There's people leading you down the garden path, so to speak, and then there's other people being fed information and that they think is valid, and it's so difficult now. It's probably harder than it's ever been. I would imagine, to sort of unravel all that. But
it's hard to know, isn't it?
Is it Atlas 3I? Is it called, or I3? Is it called?
I think it's 3. Is it 3A? I'm not certain. I mean, David might have got it bang on when he put that question up. I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, like you say, I mean that's been the fake the blue beam thing's been talked about for decades, hasn't it? It's like you said, it's an interesting one. Who is pushing it?
Well, with people within ufology probably are pushing it, because you know, I mean, I'm not desperate, but I'd love to be able to give people more proof than what we're giving them. I think that bit of footage we've just shown is probably something man-made, but it's still interesting. And it'd be great if somebody in chat, just like I think what Richard's just said, you know, he saw that in Beverley. It kind of tells us that if it's on a repeat pattern, we might see it again. I can't remember the time that we saw it. Jack might remember, or Pete, but it might have been about 10:30. You know, so right, Paul, was that possibly a refueling tanker? No, I don't think so. Jack had got binoculars on it, Ian, and there were no navigation lights. I can see where you're coming from, but I don't think so. But I saw it going east towards Beverley. But we'll know, won't we? You know, we may see it on a regular basis. We're seeing green satellites now, which we never used to see. So there's some green ones, and they seem to start up, and they seem to just appear in atmosphere. Obviously, they're just not cloaked, but hidden somehow, and then they just appear in a part of the sky, and we'll be, oh, there's another green one there, but they're satellites. We'll see about 4 or 5 of them over the course of about 45 minutes, and then you don't see them again. So that's interesting. There's so many things in there.
Yeah, just saying.
I've had some images sent tonight, which hopefully we might be able to get up next week, and a bit of footage which I haven't had time to download yet. And so images looked interesting.
Cool. Well, let's see what comes of that. Lee, it's so strange how the old stinker encounters have gone quiet over the years. Well, that's a good point, Lee, actually. Yeah,
but they've probably gone quiet because they've run out of steam, Lee. Steam, old stinker. But because what they called the old stinker, when people claimed that they'd seen something allegedly like a werewolf stroke dogman on the Barmston drain, and they called it the old stinker, but they didn't. And the lady that saw it, somebody in chat here actually knows her. And I think it's a genuine sighting. She's seen something, and then it made Hull Daily Mail. Another person claimed to have seen it, and after that, they ran out of information. So what they did, they pulled the information from Flixton. So it attacked a timber wagon. It did this. It did that. They were all stories from 45 miles away at Flixton, but they carefully just omitted to say that. So I think it's run out of steam, as you say, Lee, because there were only those 2 reports, because the rest of it came from Flixton, and they just got nothing else to talk about, and that's what I think happened, you know, because we got Whitegate Hill just out of Falkton, and you Google these areas, people, because it is a place of high strangeness, even though you wouldn't really come on holiday and park your car and walk up Whitegate Hill. There's no pavement or anything, or even a verge. It's a steep, winding hill, but people have reported this bipedal thing jumping into the road again, Whitegate Hill, and over into fields. 2 ladies driving home from, they'd been on a Christmas party, cream to stress, but the lady driving hadn't been drinking, you know, 2 sisters, and they saw it jump into the road just off Whitegate Hill going towards Muston, and they described it as looking emaciated, really big and lean, this thing with extra long legs, canine legs, that jumped into the road, looked at them and leapt off again. Not unlike what Lee reported, Chris, when we made Bringing Down the Light.
Yeah.
You remember? And he said this thing came down the side of a property and jumped into the road. Well, interestingly, they were at Muston, Lee were at Caton. As the crow flies, there's probably 1.5 miles between locations. We know there's years. Then it's the same place where a guy, and it's up there on wall, I think. I printed it off after I'd written it up. We're driving towards Whitegate Hill from Muston, and he saw something stood at the side of the road. He called it Twigman. He said it just set off running and kept up with his car, then just veered off into the field. He says, but it was just full of twigs and branches and debris. He says, but it were bipedal. Same location where people claim to have seen flying triangles. You know, there's lots of same location. If you go up top of Whitegate Hill, there's a bungalow that's for sale. I'd love to be able to afford to buy it. It's called Spell How. And it's got some of the best views in the area. If you've got plenty of money and you want to buy something with absolutely incredible views, have a look at this bungalow at top of Whitegate Hill called Spell How. And it's called Spell How for a reason. It's got a burial mound called Spell How in the garden. So it's interesting. And there's burial mounds called Elf How. There's all sorts of tumuli around that area. Get up the top of Whitegate Hill, and there's a private road. So I'm not saying go on this road. Definitely keep off it. But this sits in between Whitegate Hill and the road to Hummonby, and this farm and this farmland sits between Stakston Wold. And in the middle of it, there's some burial mounds. There's a barrow cemetery called Sharp How. And I think visually there's about 5 burial mounds that you can see. I think years ago, before, I don't know, maybe before the plough got to them, there were 9. But that's the place where in 1948, the young guys from Falkton, who were then an old man when he told me about it, said that he saw the thing leant against a tree, crouched down looking at something in it, what he described as its hands. It's 1948. You go further down onto the Cars, the wetlands, and you've got old farmers, and I bet the farmers within Flixton and Falkton, and some of you people, I know that you'll be interested in this, and your family will, so you might come to watch things like this. And there were an old farmer there called Jimmy Keith, and he employed a guy now who's probably in his late 70s, so we're going back a long way. He told him about seeing the werewolf on the Flixton and Caton Cars several times. The guy who told me about it, were called Dave, I'll not say his surname, were walking back in the evening and shut a gate behind him and claimed an hand that weren't a human hand. Can you remember me on about it? Come out of the darkness and put it onto the top of his hand. Just weird stuff. Can you imagine? So what's John saying here then, Chris?
Is there any reports of an aggressive confrontation with one of these creatures other than the fear of it? I've always found it strange that in America there are, maybe them being heavily armed. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, John. I wouldn't say. I guess what I suppose it depends on the witness to what they deem aggressive. But I think even Rob's encounter, the 2 paras that were on the cliff tops that evening with their dogs, it took a step to when they saw it. It took a step towards them, but if again we come back to the obvious. If it really wanted to,
it could have
hurt them. Very, very capable of just dispatching both of them and the dogs.
It seems like it's fear. You know, the key word in your question or your thoughts there, John, were fear. It's the fear, isn't it? You know, down in the forest in North Yorkshire, them 3 guys down there, they thought it were growling at them, and then they realised it was its breathing. So there's a physical. But they realised that eventually it was its breathing. And then the military guys who you've just been on about, Chris, the thing that sort of mesmerised this guy, Rob, he said its hand were under its chest and it were doing that. But not at them, away from them. He says, and I'm thinking there's another one. He says, because that's what it were doing. I
mean, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but that is a very, 2 things. One, it's obviously an intelligent gesture that it's doing there, and we might be making more of that gesture than just because of the circumstances. However, I think he's probably described that very well, because it's something we've heard in other cryptid encounters. A lot of the time it's Bigfoot, but definitely being more than one. I mean, that's absolutely terrifying if that's the case, because look at it another way. Generally they wouldn't have been there. They were visitors, they wouldn't have been there. So was this thing there anyway? And that's what always gets me, are these things. It's similar to the 3 guys in Wolflands that went in the woods that night and they camped out there.
That's so
Steve, they wouldn't have never been there. They just happened to be there that evening, and that thing happens. I mean,
they didn't go in there to look for any of that. They went in there because they loved fishing and wild camping, and that's something that they'd done. They've grown up from school friends to in the 50s, and they live in the same area, very close to each other, and that's something they'd done for years. They didn't go in there for any of that. All they went in for just to get away, hardworking guys, and just see what they could see and experience. And he talks to me odd times, does Steve, and still recalls it with absolute terror. It's just the fear that whatever it was put on them. You know what I mean? And that seems to be its game. That seems to be what they're deriving, because, like you said, Chris, nobody got hurt, apart from hurting mentally.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that can stay away for all your life. I mean, the other interesting thing that we throw into the equation every now and then is and we mentioned it a few weeks back, is it's the transformational occult element of this. If they're using some form of witchcraft, which we know historically has been used, or it's certainly talked about from just indigenous populations of various countries, is that what that was?
Are we looking at some? Yeah.
I mean, is this? Is it a disguise? Is it just an illusion?
Some kind of illusion. I mean, we would look upon it as magic. That's what I've been told. We would look upon what these things can do as magic, because I don't think that there's some kind of elongation of bones and things happening, and then you go back to normal. There's illusion. There's some kind of illusion. But we talked about the Fae, something else that we never thought we'd be interested in, but I am. So these elemental beings, true nature spirits, let's assume that they do reside, they do exist. They go back into folklore hundreds and hundreds of years, said to be able to transform. And I saw John's question, we'll maybe pull that up in a minute, but said to be able to transform and become other things.
Yeah.
So I think we might have touched on it other week, but if you've lived in a place that's idyllic and this is where you want to belong and this is where you reside, and then you get a bunch of blokes coming in who, I don't know, drinking, maybe after they've been hunting or whatever they're doing, lighting fires, making noise. What better way to get them out than to somehow present as some other thing, if you can transform, as in not physically transform, but just present as something else, some kind of illusion. We know about the transfiguration and the staring at the faces, and you think that people's faces take on the form of other people and other things. Are we imagining it? If we're imagining it, then when you've got a room full of people, just like at a conference, and I can think who it were at conference. He might not want us to say, but they were at conference, and there were Derek Savory. There were quite a lot of people. Derek told me about it, and other people told me about it. He's on stage speaking, and a lot of people saw this man change. Saw him physically, facially change, and then go back to himself. What's happening there? It's crazy. There's more to it, but where do we go? What was John's question there? Just unless we've lost it in the ether.
Sorry, what's the question though?
It doesn't matter. It was some symbiotic relationship, he said, but I can't. No worries. We can come to something else, can't we? So.
Yep. Don't worry about it, Lorraine. Just put.
No. Honestly, Lorraine, we're good. It's not a problem. Tracy Welburn. Hi all.
Tracy Welburn. Hi all. I was in your area this weekend, Paul. We stopped at Piebald Inn, right behind the incident at Hunmanby, lovely village, as is Huggett, where we visit often.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet you enjoyed it, and I bet you enjoyed that food as well in Piebald Inn. And pies are not called play on names, but they do some really good food there. And Tracy told me some really interesting stuff, absolutely fascinating. As there's loads of people in chat, fascinating. But yeah, really good. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. How come with so many big cat sightings there aren't any bodies or bones found? Yeah, you make a good point. I don't know. But are there so many big cat sightings, Chris? Are there so many?
Yeah, I think there are. I think I'm beginning to realise that the more people I speak to, the more people have seen these things about it, or they know someone that has. So, and I think there's a couple of things going on. I think I said last week, didn't I, or the other week? I think the numbers are definitely higher than people are predicting. But at the same time, I do recognise that. Look, at one time there used to be this ridiculous thing going around, and they used to say the same about the British Bigfoot when they thought it was some people still do think it's a flesh and blood thing. that there wasn't. How are these things getting around? Well, I can tell you after since I've been filming, which is for a long time now, I've travelled all UK. When the lights go out, you ain't seen a thing. It's all, I've said it, it's all country. Yeah. Outside of these cities, and they're even seen in the cities, on the edges of the cities,
absolutely,
and in rural towns. And even though places like, just use Flamborough as an example, it's a town, and Bempton, it's a town, isn't it? But
it's not even a town; it's a little village.
Yeah, it's a little village, and there's nothing there. Once the lights go out, there's no lights on them roads, is there? At night, you drive.
You said there's only one way in, unless you want to go into North Sea. Do you know what I mean? It's really back and beyond. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like 150 years ago. But do you know what I mean? Yeah, there's not a lot there.
Actually. Yeah,
and you know, and Tracy's just mentioned that she went to Hummonby, and they often go to Huggate, which is where I went on Friday with Jess, Mary, and Nick and Noah. And as we got into those valleys and we're walking around, we're on the wolds, and I said, I did a little talk to myself to a GoPro, but there's pockets of woodland all over the place on really, really steep, inaccessible terrain. And I'm not saying nobody ever goes in it, because I don't farm that land. I don't sort of watch over livestock, but they're all over the place, these little pockets of land, and that's just within eye shot. But you know, if you got up with a drone, or you got up in an helicopter, you'd see that these little pockets are everywhere. And and I'm keen to say that I don't think these things reside as in living, breathing creatures here in UK, and maybe not anywhere. But then I contradict myself, because you think to yourself, what if they've got some kind of innate ability, some kind of special ability where they could actually cloak, just like we look at what do they call them, a cuttlefish or an octopus, and suddenly they can become the environment and you wouldn't know they were there. Well, if you'd got these remote areas of woodland and remote areas all around the UK, and you only had to do that occasionally when somebody actually came into the area, you know, I one part of my argument, I sort of stand up that they're not real, and then another part I'm saying they are. And the reason I'm saying it, people, is because I simply don't know. It's easy.
It's just because they display characteristics of something that's very real, and in ancient times, I think that's probably why the accounts talk about like these things, like they exist, like they do exist, and that they have, in some cases, with the dog-headed man, their communities. We traded with these things, whatever they were. You know, I mean, again, you're playing with so little of history and actual so little truth. No wonder we're struggling to piece this thing together.
Absolutely, and you know, and just sticking with my particular area, I know there's somebody got some images of we'll call it a bipedal creature that's morphed just about into a tree. And I don't mean pareidolia, it's pretty clear, because the lady who's told me seen the pictures, and she only got to see them as she's walking around the dike, and the guy in his car stopped and said, "Can you see it?" And it's taken pictures, and she said, "I'm looking at pictures," and sure enough, it's there. So if that person's looking for answers and you've got them pictures, I've not seen them. I've got pictures, one picture that we've got, and it looks like a dog pulling its head out of a tree. I've never shown it you, Chris, have I?
No.
I'm not talking about these leaves where people and a twig where people claim to see a dog man. Do you know what I mean? And you think, well, how can it be? This looks like a dog. We'll see if we can do something with picture and get it up. What's this? There have been decommissioned Starlinks burning up and coming back into the atmosphere. Well, Andy, that's a possibility, but would it leave a vapor trail? Do you know what I mean? Because definitely when we actually got to grips with that, what we thought was a strip of cloud, and bear in mind it was very windy and it weren't breaking up. It just went down with that object till object disappeared. I don't want it not to be decommissioned Starlink. If that's what it was, that's good. We've ruled that out. That's good.
Awake 09. Imagine the things people must have witnessed and will never reveal for the fear of ridicule, me included. Yeah, it's sad that's the case. I mean, for the most part, it really depends who you're revealing it to.
It does, but it's difficult, isn't it? And I get where you're coming from with that. It's funny because last night we were talking about this, and I talked about Wilsthorpe, I talked about Hornby, I talked about another one, just to Jack and Pete, that I won't talk about on here, simply because the people involved don't want me to, and that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And my point being, if I've managed to get information about 3 incredible UFO related accounts, and Hummonby had it all, not just UFO, how many more are out there? How many more reports? Just like that question that came up just then, and when people just aren't willing to talk about it, they've been closed down. Don't forget the witnesses at Hummonby, the mum and dad. They got absolutely frightened to death. They got absolutely terrified when they got took into the back of that vehicle. And even all those years later, when I asked Dave if he'd talk to his mum about it, she wouldn't talk. She just wouldn't do it, So, no, it is frightening. It is frightening, isn't it? Nobody can deny that, if you get people who are trained to actually put the frighteners on people, that's their job, and you're not surrounded, but you've got a few people. I don't care who you are, you're going to be intimidated, because that if that's the nature of what these people are employed to do, frighten and intimidate, then that's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah. FL 2012. Are there any reports of people being physically attacked or even touched by a cryptid in the UK?
Loch Lomond. And this were, I'll just say guy's first name, Tim, and his partner. I'm sure it was Loch Lomond. They were sat on a wrought iron bench with the back towards a huge slab of granite, naturally formed granite. And I've spoke about it before, so let's just assume there's just hand width between his partner and himself, and a hand came out of the granite and grabbed a hip. They both saw it. They both looked down at it, and they said it looked like an orangutan's hand, like orange fur, and it just went straight back into the granite. What does that tell you? That's not normal, is it? That's not flesh and blood. Do you know what I mean? And there's not just one report like that. There's quite a lot of reports of things similar, and I don't mean from that rock face, but then it throws you back to people going missing in along the Appalachian Trail and things like that, near boulder fields where there's a lot of granite and quartz, and makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Oh, well, don't forget, Paul. We had, I can't remember which film we featured it in, but what about the guy that was out camping with his mates who was lifted up by his calf?
Yeah, absolutely.
That
were in Rotherham. That were near where the lads from in the forest had their experience, but where they lived, and that were in a place called Warncliffe Woods. He was the youngest, and I think there's 2 or 3 other lads that went out, and they went for a night's camping. And they were going to light a fire and take a few beers, and they were in, let's say, Warncliffe Woods. Got the bracken all around them and trees, and they'd gone in a bit late, and they scooped earth out and lit a fire. And he's sat with his back against a tree. His mate's in a sleeping bag, sort of like a wraparound sleeping bag. He said he thought he was like a caterpillar in it, and other lads asleep. He said, and during the night, and I've spoke to this guy loads of times. In fact, we're due for another little natter, I think, because I do enjoy speaking to him, and we don't speak about that now, just loads of things. And he said, I heard a crack, a twig break. He says, and I became ultra alert. He says, and fire's not out, but it's just sort of few flames. He says, and the next thing, my mate, the biggest one, the oldest one, he says, we're a bodybuilder, this lad, being about 22-year-old big lad. He says, he's being held upside down. And he says, all I see is a huge fur-covered arm holding him, not over the fire, but I can see him in the firelight. And he's screaming and bawling, screaming like a baby. And then it dropped him. He said, and then that night, these things, because they believe there were more than one, just caused chaos. He says, they were running around them all over. He says, we were just terrified. We couldn't get out of the woods. Then it'd stop and everything would go quiet. 15, 20 minutes, he said, and then you'd hear what sounded like a gunshot or a tree just being split in half, which is interesting because I did ask him when they came out if there was carnage in woodland. They don't recall it. So that tells me there's a voice projection or something. So something I talked about with Ron Moorhead. But anyway, that went on 20 minutes, and then it's screaming round all around them, just on peripheral, these things. Then it stopped, and then as daylight crept in, everything just stopped, and that's the story. I mean, and he came on Truth Proof and told us the story and wouldn't go on camera. Oh, he did, but we had to blur his face out, because although he doesn't live even in this country now, he says, I've got relatives that are in the area still and everything. He says, and I just don't want them to know what I saw. You know,
and also, Paul, don't forget, where was the Chewbacca encounter?
That were in Pinchenthorpe Forest in North Yorkshire. And I was talking to that guy a few weeks ago. He's on about coming down. That's Michael. Yeah, Michael. And if you're listening to this, Michael, I wish you all the best, mate, because I know you've not been very well. And that guy went camping with his 2 children. Should we do it? Have we got time? It did not take long, will it? And they camped along, again, a stone wall, set the tent. So I think there were sheep or something in the field at the other side of it. Wet, sludgy kind of day. Went for a walk into the forest. So they camped on edge of it. I want to get this right. I don't, because if you don't get it quite right, or if you get a little bit off, somebody comes and he didn't write it like that in book. But you know, I'm not an encyclopedia. I can't remember every detail. When they got back, they took the shoes off and left them on the outside of the tent because they didn't want to dirty inside that tent, and went to bed. Got in the sleeping bags and went to tucked up for sleep. At some point during night, Michael woke up and on edge. You know, that uneasy silence. There's something wrong, and he just lay there, just sort of studying surroundings, sipping silence, so to speak. He says, and very slowly, Zip come down on tent. He says, and I think he said he felt for a survival knife, you know, something he'd been using to whittle wood with, or something. You know, I'm not talking about any deadly weapon. He says, and this hand came through, and then this head came through, and he said it looked like a fur-covered Chewbacca, like a Sasquatch, but skinny, really, really skinny. He says, and it reached over towards his children, and as it reached over, it looked at him and saw him looking at it and touched him on the forehead and went out. He said, I must have just passed out. The next thing I know is, I'm sure he said he came to being carried across a field, and I don't know whether it was children that said UFO or he said it. And then the next thing he remembers is woke up in the tent. The tent is full of sludge and leaves. I don't mean full, but you get the picture. The children's feet are sludgy, and although he's confused, he's still thinking that was some weird dream, or, you know. And then the children woke up and said, you know, Dad, you know, we got took out of the tents last night by a hairy Chewbacca or a skinny Chewbacca. Because it were those children that came up with that word, the skinny Chewbacca, not Michael. And we got carried to a spaceship, which is just an odd one. Yeah,
absolutely.
Pinchenthorpe Forest. And fascinating account. And as I say, I only spoke to the guy this week.
Well, how often, Paul, do you hear in the UK particularly that link between something that looks like a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch and a UFO? Very, very rare. Very rare, yeah. And it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What we're going off? I don't know. As I say, I'll get to just speak to him in a lot more detail. I got told that story 5 or 6 years ago. That experience that guy had, and we've kept in touch ever since. So yes, fascinating. I've always remembered it. It's an amazing encounter. That George Elridge, just like the boy who'd seen TJE Beach when it spotted him. I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. This is, I'm assuming I do. This is the guy that was fishing at Hornsea just before high tide, raging sea, absolutely ungodly sea, just smashing about on the beach. And he looks up the beach and he sees that very slim, silhouetted, dark outline walking up towards him. Never seen a human as thin in his life. He said, if he believed it would have been a very small female, if it was.
didn't frighten him. He stood up to stretch his legs because he were crouched down just sheltering. But when he stood up, this thing stopped and just pixelated out of existence. Yeah, these stories are incredible, and these are the reasons that saying you get excited is probably the wrong word, because it sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But it's absolutely thrilling, because it just, even though we've not got the proof, he's not got a camera and filmed that figure, we've got an incredible story there, and we've got all these other stories, and all you people in chat, close to 200 people in chat, and you're here because I reckon some of you, if not, you'll probably all got something to tell, but some of you will have had something happen to you or seen something far more spectacular than I'll have ever seen, or Chris. And, and it's great that you found a safe place to absorb information and hopefully share some of that information with us.
Yeah, well, at this point, Paul, I'll tell you what I will say is a couple of things. We're still on the we're going to meet up and finish. Well, it's a working title, isn't it? The film we're working on at the moment. It's called Behind the Veil. That may end up being the full title. We don't know. So we're going to meet up soon and get that filmed and finished. So we're always looking for witnesses to sort of feature in. If you're interested in featuring in any of our films, I'm also filming Elusive 2, which talks about more supernatural encounters as well. So again, just mention that if you are interested, if you want to go on camera and you've got something to talk about, cool, let me know. Let Paul know. We're always a lot of what we do, Paul, is you've got so many encounters that you can't talk about.
Yeah, there's loads you can't talk about. There's you're trying to hold them all in your head, and it's difficult. But and it must be frustrating, because there's some brilliant witnesses got in touch with me, and I've contacted them, just about all of them, and I will be in touch. But today, I'm not sound like I'm bleating on, but we were heading to Scarborough at 8 o'clock, and I got home at 2:30. From 2:30. Then we were at council offices where job centre is. I'm not looking for a job, by the way, but we're trying to sort something out for a relative, and that's ate my day up. And that's pretty much what it's like. So you've got to try and fit everything in, haven't you? And just before you go on about the filming, Chris, me and Les are still going to complete the documentary. We should have been filming Peter Masters about 2 weeks ago. Pete listens to this. In fact, Pete's got an incredible 1.6 gigahertz. He's got footage of it, the strangeness, and he came out with some information that I've never heard before, and I haven't got the technical knowledge to start talking about it. But me and Les are still going to go film Pete and still put Wolfland 2 together. And once again, that is a purely working title, but it's the second documentary, so we will be doing it. Les is busy now. He's entrenched and busy working with the guy on the Hull Marina with the sailing ship, the HMS Pickle, and that, which is great. I'm glad he's enjoying that. But all being well, me and Les will still be doing that. It's just that life's got in way for me at the moment. It really has. And I know it has for Les, and I know it has for you. But I didn't want to not mention it, because somebody would say, well, what about what were you doing with Les? All being well, we're still doing it. We've spent too many man hours filming people to just let it slip by. And just before we do that, can I just say, anybody interested in the Truth Proof books, truthproof.uk, my website, that's where you can obtain them. If they're for overseas customers, go through the eBay link, and then we can send them global shipping. And Wolfland, the documentary that me and Les did, that's available there as well, and the books are on Amazon Kindle, and I'm going to get all the books back on Amazon as well.
Yeah, Paul,
so
I think someone was just saying in comments, where could they watch first? Wolflands, don't forget, it's on Amazon as well.
It's on Amazon. Thank you. It's on Amazon Prime as a download. And you can get the hard copies. Anybody who orders them, seriously, if I got an order in tonight, it'll be posted tomorrow. And I'm true to my word. We've got a brilliant track record of getting the DVDs out and the books out really quick. So thanks for that, Chris. Because normally, I did Truth Proof the other night, never mention my books. And you get some people, I don't know whether they just like being nasty. All he's interested in is selling books and making money. Do you think we make a load of money out of this? Do you think for hours that myself and Les put into Wolflands, we made a lot of money? We didn't. And I know that you've not done the same, have you, with Elusive and others?
I think I'm owed about £250,000 quid. But,
Yeah.
but as I said, look, primarily we're not. It's just that sometimes
I love it. I love what I'm doing.
On the odd occasion, you just get someone that demands a lot of you, and you just can't possibly just meet those demands sometimes. And it's just that's just the reality of it. I wish we could.
Oh, see, Alison's in. Good to see you, Alison. Moondog. Let's just have a quick look. Pete's there, isn't he? There's loads of Alison there, any road. See McGoldrick. I'm glad. Do you know something? I'm firing these names out, and somebody's going to put one of them that sounds rude, aren't they? And I'm going to end up saying it, aren't I? Yeah, you know what I mean.
I'm just going to put this up because I think this is one of my mates, Darren Howard, and I think Captain. We call him Captain Daz. Anyway, he's put this on. He's put Dogman encounters snarling and snorting, and this is off the back of. He's saying that this can just be sheep. This is off the back of, and it's an interesting comment, really. It was funny at the time, but we'd hired this lovely house in middle of Scotland, near right. I think it was near Galloway, when we were filming that Sticks and Stones that's on the channel with Andy McGrath, me, Darren, and it'll come to me, Jerry.
Right.
Jerry with us, and first night we'd gone out and we were just filming a bit of B-roll, really, just me and Andy having a conversation, and then some people went in. We were going to get anyone on that because we were up at that 4 in the morning, and then suddenly in trees we hear this rustling and this grunting, and I tell you now, it did not sound like a sheep. All of us were going, what the hell is this? Anyway, it turned out to be a sheep, but just a warning that Daz is right, and many people do talk about foxes for this, vixens, and even deer. You know, in the wrong part of the season.
Well, they're back. Roe deer will back, and you make a hell of a sound. And badger, if you get two badgers fighting, somebody who weren't familiar with that, you'd think you'd heard something really ferocious, you know. So yeah, you can soon sort of mistaken identity, should we say?
Well, it's the darkness, you know what, and I have done it. I mean, I think I've told this story. It was not really a story, but the first time I think I ever stayed at your house, and we were felt you. I think we might have gone up with Bob. So it's years ago.
Yeah.
And you ran Bob back or something like that, and you left me up there.
Yeah. I'd forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd been up on my own, and I was like, I was frightened.
Yeah,
I was. Right. And it's the unknown. It's not. It's just the unknown, isn't it?
It's the unknown. A lot of people in chat will be familiar with Andrew Collins from History Channel, and is it Ancient Aliens? Andrew does a lot of work for, and Andrew's been up a few times, and I think one of the first times he came up, he goes, "I'm going to stay up, lads." He said, and he were a bit eccentric, and I don't think he were driving. I think Richard were driving. He says, "But I'm going to stay up," and he got a bottle of red wine, and he got some cheese and crackers. And he said, "I'm staying and I'm going to have these." And we left him. And 5 minutes later, I think he'd got to his car before us. He didn't want to be there. You know what I mean? But so, yeah, Andrew.
Were you trying to flush him out with cheese, were he?
Well, God knows. He sat there. I don't know what he was thinking, but yeah, I like the bloke. You know, he's
well, maybe it's just you lot. You're just not sophisticated enough, you and Laney and Bob and Jack. You know, maybe you guys don't have fancy French wine and cheese. You know, what's wrong with it?
We have a Rebos and loads of little sweets and sours and nom noms, or we're all eating sweets up there. To be honest with you, shouldn't do really. Jack probably eats more than anybody. But there you go.
Well, you got up your game. That's all I've got to say.
We've got to try. So where are we going now? Have we any questions, or are we going on for 10 minutes, or are we closing down?
If you've got something you want to fill in the time with, did you say you had an encounter that you wanted to mention, didn't you? A story that came in. Did you say?
Well, yeah, it might take more than 10 minutes, but we'll do this if you want.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
You shouldn't have. I wish I'd not asked now. So we're going back to 1987. And I sort of did this because I thought other week on Truth Proof, somebody said, "Oh, he don't tell stories anymore." He don't. But what you got to think is that's when I'm going onto other people's channels and they're asking me for accounts and things, and that's where that came from. I got a message off Whitley Strieber this morning, and I don't know whether he's not said, "Are you going to come on Dreamland?" But it just talking about something and I answered him, but I expect that's what's going to come. So then I'll be telling stories. For many years, Joan had been puzzled, even mystified by something that she is 100% sure she experienced 30 years ago. So I'm just about reading this, guys, so you might not get any more questions. That flyer bugger off. Back then, she didn't know anyone and could not talk about the experience, so she shut it away. It was one of those troubling memories that surfaced from time to time. I've changed this lady's name, by the way. When it happened, she tried to tell her husband, but he dismissed her recall of what happened as a vivid dream or just plain nonsense. So Joan kept her experience to herself. And that's kind of something I've noted, and with people. And what happens if you tell somebody that you really, really want to believe you and they don't believe you, then you're even more determined to shut down, aren't you? She told me that many years later, she saw a program on TV where someone was talking about coloured orb-shaped lights in the sky. She says, and that immediately caught her attention and brought back the memories, and they sort of came flooding back. And we've all experienced that as well. There's a trigger, and this was we've changed the name, but Joan's trigger. The descriptions of the orbs matched what she'd seen and matched what she experienced in her mind. Suddenly, she said all she wanted to do was find out answers about the experience that she'd had years before. As previously stated, it happened a long time ago, sometime between 1987 and 1988. The reason she knows that was because her youngest daughter was not born until 1989, and she distinctly remembers her two oldest daughters were sharing a bedroom at the back of the house. They would have been aged 4 years and 18 months, respectively, at the time. So Joan says she remembers being woken up in the early hours. She's guessing around 1 or 2 a.m. She was woken by a deep, low humming noise that seemed very loud and very close. That close, in fact, that she actually thought it was inside the house at first or just outside the window. She said that she sleeps deeply and that her husband is a much lighter sleeper, often waking up before her if the daughters woke during the night. I used to pretend that game as well, but I never got up. Mary always got up. But we've all done that, haven't we? They recently moved number 2 daughter into a cot in her sister's bedroom, which was next door to their bedroom. Joan told me that she was lying in bed wide awake, listening to the rhythmic humming noise, trying to work out exactly what it was. It made no sense. Okay, here we go. She assumed it was some sort of machinery, but it was not like anything she had ever heard before or since. Her husband was fast asleep, and no amount of shaking would wake him up. And there's a pattern in there. We've all heard that kind of thing, haven't we? Do you know? So, which is very strange. Also, neither of their 2 dogs woke up either. She cannot fathom why. She never thought it was odd at the time, but that's the truth. To add a little context, the 2 dogs slept in their bedroom close to the door and would usually have woken at the slightest disturbance. And that in turn would have woken her husband, but none of them stirred. So what's happening there? Do you know what I mean? It's what's happening there that it's nullified everybody else, hasn't it? Whatever it is, yeah. Even animals. At that point, she became concerned and thought she should check that the girls were okay. So she got up out of bed and walked around to their bedroom. They were both fast asleep, but the noise was getting louder. Joan had now worked out that the sound was definitely coming from outside. So she slowly knelt down in front of the window and peeked through the curtains. And when she did, she could not believe what she was seeing. The noise was somehow even louder when looking out of the window. She didn't open the window, but it just seemed louder. It felt as though it was actually coming from above the roof. She couldn't see anything, but that's how it felt. But that didn't matter because she was mesmerized by what was going on in next door's yard. The yard next door were the offices of a family firm, and down at the bottom of their yard were some tall conifer trees. Those trees were hiding Joan's in-laws' private garden from view. Around the top of the conifers were several spheres of coloured light that were whizzing around in a circle. Yeah. She said they looked incredible. Occasionally, 1 or 2 would fly off at great speed and then return to join the others, adding that they shot upwards at an incredible velocity and would suddenly reappear back in the circle of dancing lights around the top of the conifers. She has no words other than they looked amazing. She said that the noise was horrible. This is the noise above the roof, not from the spheres. It was low and a rhythmic hum, but she feels 100% certain that the lights were silent. The lights were all orb-shaped, with soft, muted colours that didn't cast any light or shadow. So we've got another pattern there that's familiar, haven't we? Classic telltale signs of genuine encounter. That's what I would say when somebody says something like that. The orbs were somewhere between a tennis ball and a children's football size. The conifers were 12 to 15 foot tall. Joan could simply not understand what the lights were or how they were moving. None of it made sense. And although she found the humming to be an ominous sound, the dancing lights somehow allied and suppressed the fear. She also has a vague memory of being concerned for her daughters and hearing a voice in her head telling her that they would be fine and nothing would hurt them. I know it's not an exciting story as such, but it's, to me, it's fascinating. It's got everything, hasn't it? She's something speaking. Wilsthorpe, the old lady, stepped back into the living room and a voice in her head said, where did that come from? A voice in her head said, go back and have another look. But anyway, we're not doing Wilsthorpe, are we? For some reason, Jones thought that it was the lights that were talking to her directly in her head. She cannot remember anything more until she suddenly realized that it was still she cannot remember anything more until she suddenly realized that she was still in the bedroom, standing in the same position, still looking out of the window, only now it was light outside and it was dawn. She felt very cold and was shivering and confused. Incredibly, one of the orbs was outside of the window. In her own words, she says, "This is so weird, but it was talking to me inside my head. It told me that everything was all right and I should go back to bed and sleep, because it and the other orbs had to leave now. She remembers feeling very sad because they had been so beautiful and she didn't want them to go." Joan says that she asked, not out loud, but she asked, like we've done, like somebody said on Cliff Tops, do we ask? Does Chris ask? But inside her head or inside her mind, whether they would come back again. We've nearly done, people. And the voice inside her head said one day they would return. The humming noise had stopped and now she could hear the dawn chorus starting to wake up the world. The orb told her that she should not tell anyone about seeing them as it was dangerous. And again, it told her to go back to bed. She did as it asked and said it felt very weird afterwards. She told me that she went to bed but couldn't sleep. She also said that when her husband woke up, despite being told not to speak about what she had seen, she told him what had happened. He didn't believe her. Since that day, Joan has never stopped thinking about what she saw and experienced. So just somebody's strange experience, one experience from 1987, 88 that stayed with that lady all her life. And that's why I do what I do, to be honest with you, because I just love these stories and I love to put them out there. And I was asked to change name and I have. So I know she'll feel comfortable in her own skin if she hears this, because I've not put any sort of information out that could connect. But a lot of people don't mind, but this lady did, So I don't know what you guys think, but there you go.
Yeah, as you say, it contained a lot of the elements that we hear, and it's not. Oh, thank you, Lee. Appreciate that, Matt. It's not surprising that people do think there's a sinister sort of outlook on this, even though generally that seemed okay. If that was a person that was in your or outside your gaff saying, "Don't worry about it, your kids will be fine. You just get back to sleep," you'd be going, "You are? What are you doing in my garden?" Or whatever,
Absolutely.
And that's why they get the reputation that they do.
But look at what they were capable of then. We'll assume that this lady's telling the truth. I believe she's took the time to write that. I've not really changed anything apart from a name. Do you know what I mean? I've made it read a little bit easier, but the actual truth of the story is there. But look at all them elements that it's got in it. The mind speaking into a mind, the suppression and the nullifying of the animals and a husband. There's nothing happening. It's got all the classic elements of something really strange. And I bet you it never leaves her mind when they said one day they'll return.
Jesus.
Because and I think in her mind that she's hoping for that, because it was so beautiful, in her words, what she was observing. So it is fascinating. I know when Jess experienced those three beings in the farmhouse years ago at Rudston, when she was laid there and a partner were outside of her, she couldn't wake him up, and they were stood at bottom at bed, and there's one tall one and two small ones, and he wouldn't wake up. That's odd in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, not everybody's the same, and you know, you've had your encounters, and you've got your thoughts on what happened to you, and other people have got, Jesus, just wild thoughts about who they're dealing with. It's just,
but in Night People, you know, mainly it's my recollections of the things that happened, but things happened to Mary. And there's a story in there and she told me, she said, I woke up in the night and the bed, the level with the bed, it was full of mist, room was full of mist. She says, and there were the little beings in room and you wouldn't wake up. I said, well, what did you do? She says, I don't know. I just went to sleep. I must have done. And what's strange about that is you'll only get those things. They're really infrequent, but you'll only get those things 3 or 4 weeks after the event, because she's been chewing it over in her mind for so long and then decide to tell me. Probably because telling somebody like me and her being, as in husband and wife, I'll be questioning her about it all the time. She's probably thinking, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, good point.
You know, and it's only now that I can understand that, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely, yeah.
You know, you don't want to talk about something that were frightening. So why do you want him bringing it up all the time? Because he thinks it's interesting. You know, it's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, it's
all right,
like that news, man.
No, it was good. It was, you know, maybe Paul. I mean, maybe we should drop one of them in, you know, every now and then.
Well, I'm not going to move camera because Lead will come out, but there's a wall full of them there, and there's literally emails that I get, and I sit there and I put them into Word documents, and there's loads. There's absolutely loads, and it will just kick up backside. I needed other week, and I didn't take it as an insult when the guy who put the comment in saying, "You never tell any stories anymore. You never share any accounts," and that's what I liked to hear. That's what I liked to hear when you were talking on Howard Hughes and things like that. And I thought, you know what, you're right. And people do like that, because I know if I listen to a podcast, that's what I want to listen to.
Yeah, that is very true. Actually, me too. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll try and do that. Give us a thumbs up if that's what you want, and we'll try and fit one in at the end or at some point during the live stream. Yeah.
All right, I'll try and give it a Jack and Ori vibe though.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
A bit of intro music.
Time then, aren't we?
Yeah. Right. So I think that's about it, guys. So thanks as ever for tuning in tonight. I've had a lot in tonight, so really appreciate it. And sorry for missing last week. What are you thinking for next week, Matt? Anything on your mind for next week?
Not at the moment, but once again, well, let's throw it out there. If you think, and obviously contact me or Chris in week, me probably, because I know Chris has got a lot of editing in. If you've got anything that you want to share with us because I know if you've got a story that you can share for half an hour, people in chat will throw half an hour's worth of questions at it. If you've got anything that you think's relevant and you want to come in on to Last Transmission and share it with us, get in touch with Chris or myself. There's nothing in my head at the moment as regards what we could talk about. So we'll be guided by you guys. If you want, I mean, we'll leave it a minute. Just give us an idea. Just give us an idea in a few questions. If you want to talk about Men in Black, just put MIB. We'll just collect them up. And if we get none, we get none. But just what do you want to talk about? Do the Men in Black interest you? That's just off the top of my head. Shall we talk about ghosts? Shall we talk about spiritualism? I see that Philip Kinsella's just been nominated as Psychic of the Year.
That's right. I saw that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and brilliant for Philip, you know. But I'm more interested in talking to people like we've got in chat, and I don't mean I don't want to talk to Philip. He's great, but what I'm meaning is you're the people with the stories, you're the people with the information, and just the limited amount of people that I've spoken to that I see as names coming up in here. You've got incredible stories to share. So if you want to come on and share some of it, like we've said, it's a safe place.
Yeah,
So,
and even if it's not you and it's a friend or a friend's account or a family member's account, the invite's there anyway.
Right, I'm just looking there just briefly. So we've got MIB, we've got Witchers, and we've got USOs. Okay, Rod. And then we've got the Phil Reed story. Now, Chris might know what that is, but I don't. So I'd have to have a look.
No, I don't know the Phil Reed story. Actually.
So David Hunt, if let's have a little bit of that. But obviously we'll do a bit of digging. And you've given us 4 things there, haven't you? That shapeshifter you once interviewed. Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Hey Paul, I'll tell you what's come up again this week. It's come up on my feed. Penturk, have you seen it?
No, I haven't. No.
More stuff coming up about Penturk. Yeah, so it's raised its head again, and in a good way.
Well, we've had Kaz Clark on Truth Proof, and I don't think that she'd be averse to coming on here, opposed to coming on here. So I could maybe reach out to Kaz Clark and see whether she'll come on in next week or week after. And she might say no, but I don't think she would. Because she's passionate about what she's seen and what she's experienced. So it'd be interesting for you guys. Yeah. But Rod's saying Penturk, yes, please. So yeah, we'll leave that one with me.
And there's that Welsh Mountain UFO case. That's a great case as well, isn't it? I can't remember the guy's name. Who was the lead investigator on that?
Scott Felton.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. I don't know him well, but yeah, he's done a lot of work on that, and he did some work with Richard Dior on it, didn't he? Is that the Berwyn Mountains? Is that the one? Yeah,
it could be that one. Yeah.
And he did a lot of work on it. Really good researcher. And then there's the other guy. Good God, he sent me a load of information. He sent Philip Mantle some information a few weeks ago. Oh, we've had him on. Christ, what do they call him? He's just been really in depth into a case. We'll find out about that and see if we can get him on. And I'm sad in it that I can't remember his blooming name, because he's kind of a little known researcher, but he puts just as much effort as anybody I know in the detail. I can't think what they call him. Just left me head.
Well, I think he was on Lee Nicholson was on Mick McLaren's channel the other day. That was interesting. I watched the other night. Yeah,
Lee Nicholson.
Yeah, Lee's very good, isn't he?
That's the name.
Oh, that's Lee, is it?
That's Lee, yeah. Lee
Nicholson.
Right.
I didn't know that, by the way.
Yeah, Lee Nicholson. Lee's a great guy, and it was just coincidence, but yeah, it's Lee. And the depth of research that Lee puts into, and he goes over and above. He's really good at what he does.
Right, cool. Yeah. Right, we're off then, are we? Right, so thank you guys. Thank you, Lorraine, for moderating as ever. Thanks, mate. And
thank you.
We'll see you all next week.
Good night.